Hey everyone, Dominic here with the Ravening Hordes Game Club in Saskatoon. Today we've got 4,500 point game, my Vampire Covenant versus Derek's Warriors of the Dark Gods. We played Dawn Assault, and the secondary was Secure the Target. Here's a picture of the battlefield before we got into it. We've got a forest, a hill, a field, a forest, impassable, a field, and a hill. These are my spells on my Vampire Courtier, and the spells on the General. For his spells, he had the Spectral Blades, Ancestral Aid, Touch of the Reaper, Hasten the Hour, and then he also had the Hereditary spell. Here's my deployment. I've got a varkolak, I've got zombies, Barrow Guard with a Barrow King. I've got bats, skeletons with sword and board, full command, the Vampire General, more bat swarms. I've got Vampire Knights with a Vampire Courtier in there, another bat swarms, and over here we've got some Barrow Knights. The two little tokens you can see out here are the two objectives to hold. For his deployment, we've got a Warrior Chariot, Warhounds, a Giant, Knights with Great Weapons of Wrath. He's got a Sorcerer, another Warrior Chariot. He's got a big unit of Warriors with Gluttony, I think it was, as well as a BSB in there. He has got then his General on a Chimera, and Barbarians back here, and some Feldrax. We were close to the end of the deployment there, and I ended up just dropping to try and take the second turn. I did win. My Vanguard, I just moved the varkolak from over there to, he was on the other side of the forest, to the edge of the forest. So into Warriors turn 1. The Chariot actually backed up just to stay far out of range of that varkolak, and then everything else moves up. So it moves up the dogs, the giants, the knights, pretty much everything. The barbarians moved up a little bit less there, but they were heading towards the objective, and his Lord on a Chimera just heads up way over here to try and wrap the flank. Into the magic phase, he goes ahead and he casts Touch of the Reaper on my General, and I dispel that, and then he also casts Hasten the Hour on my General. He caused 1 wound, but I failed my save. So 1 wound on the General first turn. That's what the board looks like. Into Vampire turn 1, the zombies go ahead and declare a charge against the hounds. I'm 14 away. I'm outside of my march range, so I can only move 4 anyway, so I figure, why not? They do that charge, they fail it. And the Barrow Guard just move up, kind of facing everything except for the Warhounds. The varkolak moves back closer into the forest there, just kind of playing around. The skeleton block is in good position here, so if he does charge anything into the Barrow Guard, they'll stick. I'll get a good flank charge, so he's risked there. Not a lot can see the skeleton brick because of the hill. Same thing with these guys over here, they're all hidden by the hill. And I've got kind of a zone of danger here. We got a standoff zone there. The Barrow Guard, or the Barrow Knights, they moved sideways a little bit just to make sure he couldn't get out of arc of sight of anything. Not that I was going to charge that lord with these guys, but you know, gotta pretend to be vicious, I guess. Into the magic phase, I go ahead and I cast Whispers of the Veil on his Sorcerer. Lets that one go off. Then I went and I tried to do Dead or Rise. He dispels that. And then I tried to go and cast the Breath of Corruption on my, I think it was just one of the unit champions. I focused it and I caused wounds to myself, and he stopped that. So, into Warriors turn 2. That Chariot that was hanging out way back there moves up. The Warhounds, I think they just stayed put. The Knights, the Sorcerer, and the Giant actually move back a bit. That Lord and a Chimera just zips over here. And that chariot actually did charge the bat swarms that I had thrown up for chaff. Everything else just kind of stays put. The barbarians move up a little bit here. The objective is just down off the screen over here. They're just kind of looking at it. Into the magic phase. He went ahead and he cast Hasten the Hour on my general again. Caused a wound, but I saved it. He did Touch of the Reaper, which I dispelled. And then he did Hellfire on the Barrow Guard, and as you can see, he just peeled off a few. In the combat, he did kill the bat swarms there with the chariot. Right there. So, Vampire turn 2. I go ahead and I charge the zombies into the Warhounds, and I tried to charge the Barrow Guard into the chariot. It's far charge, but I figure if I make it, perfect, because then I'm in a good spot to overrun into his Lord. And that's probably bad news for his Lord, but yeah, it was like a 13-inch charge. They both failed. Actually, I believe, yeah, these dogs actually decided to flee. So they fled, and I just stumble forward a little bit. The varkolak speeds across the table there, gets out of arc of sight of everything, and he is now on the flank. He's got a view to everything that's over here. This one here I was actually pretty proud about. These bats, I flew up. They're within 12 of my general. They are actually blocking. There's a giant that's just over here who's on the flank of these guys. There's warriors that are on the front, and then there's a chariot that's on the front. So I figure if all of that comes in, this unit is probably gone. I threw up the bats because the giant actually can't come through this gap. Can't fit. The warriors, if they actually go up here and wheel around the bats, they actually don't leave enough room for the chariot. The chariot, if it goes in first, the warrior knights can wheel around it, but then they only get like 2 guys into combat. If they go into the bats, this giant, and this is kind of a weird angle here, but the giant hits the corner, he can't actually overrun into this unit the way it was actually set. So, and then the knights would still be on the front. So then I'm only fighting the knights as well as the chariot. I actually feel not too bad about that fight. So, as long as the giant doesn't make it in and just thunderstomps me. So, I was pretty happy with that maneuver there. Elsewhere, I was also really happy with this one. The bats move up, chaff the Feldrax. Out of arc of sight here, so he can't see me. These guys are behind the hill. He can't see me again. I'm actually really close to these guys, though. And I've had a little bit of a plan here that worked out actually pretty good. You'll see it in the next turn there. But that's the movement. So into the magic phase there, we go ahead and we get Whispers of the Veil on his warrior chariot in the center. And then we did Breath Corruption, which he dispelled. And we tried to do Hasten the Hour as well on the Feldrax, which he also dispelled. I think I also tried to raise the few wounds on the Barrow Guard at this point, and he dispelled that as well. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's looking like here. We go into Warriors turn 3. This chariot moves back. The dogs rally. The Feldrax decide to reform on the spot. They're pretty much trapped there, and the warriors do the same thing. I think this chariot actually moved backwards, and that Lord and a Chimera comes up to get right on the flank. Into his magic phase, let's see here, he casts Hasten the Hour on my general again, and I save the wound. And then he tried to cast the hereditary spell on the Barrow Guard, and I dispelled that as well. I think that's the table there going into Vampire turn 3. Yeah, so Vampire turn 3. Here we go. These bats charge the Warhounds. The Warhounds flee. The Barrow Guard that are just back over here kind of area, they charge the giant. The giant flees. Now, I remember I was saying I was within 12 of my general here. I redirect past the check into the giant who's now fleeing. He flees even further. He's just close to the board edge now. These warhounds, they went through that impassable terrain. They suffered a few wounds. They're gone for the rest of the game. After the giant fled, the Barrow Guard actually tests to redirect into his knights that were up here. Is a far charge, but might as well go for it. Over here. So the knights. Sorry, I did this first. These bats, as you can see right here, they actually can see this chariot. So I can just fly over top, hit the chariot. They declare that charge. These knights declare the charge against Feldrax, and the Barrow Guard or the Barrow Knights that are on the flank over here, they charge the barbarians. He flees with the Feldrax, and he flees with the barbarians. So I don't do any redirects. I just go for where I am. There's the flee. Barbarians are here. We were only. It was actually only like 14 away right there. I have the +1 movement banner on there, so the banner of speed. So I only needed a 5 with Swift Stride. He flees. He rolls 5. Now I need a 10, and I roll an 11. Perfect. So things are not looking so good over here anymore. These bats actually failed their charge, so it's not bad. I mean, these guys could potentially charge in and get a good overrun into my knights, which would be awful, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's kind of just looking at what it is. Into the magic phase here. I cast Whispers of the Veil again on the... I think I did it on the chariot again. And... yeah, Whispers of the Veil on the chariot. And then I tried to cast the Breath of Corruption on... I think on the general. I caused some wounds to these zombies. I figured that sorcerer is all by himself. I might as well try it. Oh, in the movement there too, I also had moved up these guys just to make sure that the Barrow Guard flank was protected, because they did make a failed charge move. These guys are now blocking any kind of charge. You can charge the zombies, but that's fine. And that's my turn 3. So into Warrior's turn 4, he charges the Wrath Knights up into the Skeletons. He charges the Lord and a Chimera into the flank. And then he moves the Warrior Chariot up to block the Barrow Guard from being able to close the door. So that was a really good move on his part. Over here, the Giant rallies, the dogs flee off the table. The Feldrax rally and they reform on the spot. And then into Magic Phase. Sorry for the spoilers. So he casts Hasten the Hour on my Knights, and I decided to stop that. And then he casts Ancestral Aid on his Knights. I think that went through. And then he cast the Hellfire, tried to do it on the Varkolak, and I just dispelled that one. So into the combat phase, as you can see, there's a lot less skeletons here. The Vampire only killed one Knight, which I was a little bit disappointed in. My unit champion was in a challenge with his unit champion. Kills, gets the bonus. Yeah, just a bunch of wounds. This is actually after my crumble check as well. So, they are not looking too much longer for this world. But that's what it's looking like. So into Vampires turn 4. The Barrow Guard go ahead and charge the Chariot in the front. The Varkolak charges the Chariot in the rear, or in the flank, sorry. Over here, the Bats charge the flank of the Feldrax, and the Barrow Knights charge the front. The Knights over here, they actually just moved up just to make sure I got a good view on here, just in case I need it, as well as still holding the Warrior brick in place. They didn't want to get too close. Into the Magic phase. Boom. I dedicated all my dice to raising wounds, and I got 19 skeletons back here. Couldn't ask for a better thing. At the end of this combat, I kill a couple knights, he kills a bunch of skeletons, and next time that's going to be the end. He'll kill the rest of the skeletons and crumble out the vampire, so he doesn't even need to attack the vampire directly here. The other important thing is I've got the Blade of True Thirst, so last turn my champion came back from that. Was in a challenge, we're going to be in a challenge again in this one, and then he kills me, guy caused 2 wounds, he comes right back. So I can just challenge him out for days. And I think this is going into the Warriors turn 5. There wasn't a lot. I think that's pretty much it. In his turn, the Chariot charged the bats, and I think that was pretty much it for movement. The Giant actually came way over here, but otherwise they just stayed put. So into his magic phase, we got no pictures of that. I cast Hasten the Hour on my knights, which I stopped, and then he did Ancestral Aid on his knights. I let that go off. He did Spectral Blades on his knight. I let that one go off, and that was the end of the magic phase there. Into the combat phase, I did kill 2 more knights, but he crumbled the unit like I said. Reformed, or pivoted on the spot like so. And in the other the Chariot kills those bats. So into Vampire turn 5, the varkolak charges the Chariot, it's off to the flank. The Barrow Guard charge the remaining champion up here. He makes it, they make it. These guys came back on the board. I missed something here, I gotta go back. Yeah, this one. That fight with the Feldrax, actually. So what ended up happening is I actually won by 1, and he failed his check. His BSB is right there. He failed it twice. I chased with the bats, but I tested the restrain with the Barrow Knights. I failed that again. So I ran off the table in my turn there. So in my next turn here, we go back to, I came back on the board and move up as far as I can. The crumble check from my vampire dying, I lost some on the bats and I lost some zombies. That was it. It was pretty lucky. Into my magic phase, my magic phase turn 5. I do Hasten the Hour on his general just to cause a single wound. He stops it. I do Whispers of the Veil on his general, that goes through. And then I also cast the Dead Arise, or just Arise, on the Barrow Guard to gain those wounds back. Another important thing I did here too is I moved this Vampire Courtier out of harm's way from all the magic spells, so he's hiding behind a hill now. Into combat, I cause a wound, he causes a wound, he's down by 1, he makes his check, sticks there, I roll my Vampiric, gain my wound back. Over here, I kill the last remaining knight, and overrun into his general. So we go right into Warriors turn 6. Warriors turn 6, he charges the rear of the Barrow Guard, and that's pretty much it. These guys here, they were thinking about this for a little while because the secondary is here. I've already got the secondary at this point. Even if he moves up, I've still got the secondary because I can just move up and contest this one. I hold the other one. If he stays put, I get the secondary. If he moves up, he gets the secondary. I still get the secondary, but it also puts him in harm's way of a flank charge from these knights and a front charge from the vampire knights. So he's thinking about it for a little while, elects just to hold, which is probably not the worst idea. I mean, I wasn't going to charge him in anyway. That unit is just scary as hell. I mean, there's like 1,900 points of models right there. I wasn't too confident about attacking that for the whole game, so yeah, he just stays there. Into his magic phase, what did he get in his magic phase here? He casts Ancestral Aid on his giant. I tried to stop it, but it goes through, and then he also casts Hellfire on the giant, or on the Barrow Guard, I guess. And I wasn't aware that that could actually go into combat, so that was kind of neat. Causes a couple wounds there. But that combat with the... Here, he peels off a bunch. I do stay. I still got quite a few there. But we're stubborn with the king. Into Vampire, turn 6. I didn't really have much for movement. Most of my units just kind of stayed placed. Moved up to grab the other secondary objective. I didn't need to, but I did anyway. The magic phase, I go ahead and cast Whispers of the Veil on his giant. That was the cast roll. He tried to stop it. It still goes off. And then I did a rise. I gained some more wounds back on the Barrow Guard. This is actually after combat happened here. So yeah, he beats up on the unit some more. I didn't cause a single wound back. I did lock this guy into a challenge this turn, just to preserve bodies, kind of thing. Thinking about that, I probably should have preserved bodies the first time as well, but that's fine. So that's the end of that one here. The varkolak cleans up the warrior chariot, and that's the board at the end of the game. So I've got the secondary objectives, and he's still fighting those Barrow Guard. These guys are just locked in a positioning battle. Nobody wants to get closer to each other. So that's the end of the game. We did up the points really close. It was only a 5% difference in points there. So it was a 10-10, but I did pick up the secondary there. So final score was a 13-7 for the vampires. Hope you guys enjoyed the battles, and stay tuned for the next ones.